How does a club lose $100 million in a single year and then go out and spend another $100 million on a striker the very next day? In the real world, that's called bankruptcy. In the world of elite football, it's just Tuesday. For decades, we've been told that football is a sport of merit, where the best team wins and the smartest clubs rise to the top. But look closer at the giants, the Manchester Cities, the Chelseas, the PSGs, and you'll see a different game being played. A game where the most important person isn't the man wearing the number 10 jersey, but the man carrying the briefcase. We are living in the era of the financial glitch, a time where rules like financial fair play were designed to level the playing field, but instead, they've created a fortress that keeps the rich safe and the rest of the world out. You see the glitz, the trophies, and the record-breaking transfer fees. But behind the scenes, there is a web of sponsorship loops, accounting tricks, and legal battles that would make a Wall Street banker blush. Today, we are pulling back the curtain. We're going beyond the grass and into the boardrooms to reveal the financial secrets that have turned your favorite sport into a private playground for the billionaire elite. This is the story of how the super clubs really make their billions, and why the game you love might never be the same again. To understand how the rich stay rich, you have to understand the magic of the accounting spreadsheet. To you and me, if we buy something for $100 million, that money is gone. But for a super club, that $100 million doesn't actually exist all at once. Enter the world of amortization. Think back to the recent transfer windows at Stamford Bridge. While the rest of the league was watching their bank accounts, Chelsea was on a spending spree that defied logic. They weren't just buying players, they were buying time. By signing young stars to unprecedented 7, 8, and even 9-year contracts, they discovered a financial cheat code. In the eyes of the league's auditors, that $100 million transfer fee wasn't a one-time hit. By spreading the cost over an 8-year contract, the club only had to account for $12.5 million a year. On paper, they looked sustainable. In reality, they were mortgaging their future to win today. It was a brilliant, desperate move that forced the governing bodies to scramble and change the rules in real time. But while the Chelsea loophole may have been partially closed, it revealed a deeper truth. The rules aren't there to stop the spending, they're just there to see how creative you can get with the math. But amortizing contracts is just the tip of the iceberg. The real money, the untouchable money, comes from a much darker corner of the boardroom, the sponsorship loop. If amortizing contracts is the clever trick of the trade, the sponsorship loop is the masterstroke. It's the engine room of the modern super club, and it's at the heart of the most controversial legal battle in the history of the sport, the 115 charges hanging over Manchester City. To understand the loop, you have to look at where the money is coming from. In a traditional model, a club earns its keep from ticket sales, TV rights, and legitimate sponsors. But for the state-backed giants, the lines between the owner and the sponsor aren't just blurred, they are non-existent. Imagine you own a football club, but the rules say you can't just pump your own billions into the squad. So, you go to your other company, perhaps a national airline or a global telecommunications firm, and you tell them to sign a massive sponsorship deal with your club. Suddenly, an extra $50 million appears on the balance sheet. To the auditors, it looks like commercial revenue. To the rest of the world, it looks like an owner writing a check to himself. This is the related party transaction. It's the mechanism that allowed clubs to bypass financial fair play for years, inflating their value and giving them a war chest that no traditional club could ever match. It created an arms race where the winner wasn't the team with the best scouts, but the team with the most influential parent companies. The authorities finally woke up to this, triggering a wave of investigations that are still shaking the foundations of the Premier League today. They are trying to determine if these deals were fair market value, or if they were a sophisticated camouflage for illegal state funding. But even as the lawyers argue over the fine print, the super clubs have already found another way to generate pure profit. And this time, they aren't using airlines, they're using their own children. In the modern era of financial sustainability, there is one phrase that keeps club owners awake at night: pure profit. And to find it, they've turned their eyes away from the transfer market and toward their own training grounds. Under the current profit and sustainability rules, when a club buys a player for $50 million, that cost stays on the books for years. But when a club sells a player, they grew themselves, someone who cost nothing in transfer fees. Every single cent of that sale is recorded as immediate 100% profit. This has created a heartbreaking new reality for the sport. We are seeing a Youth Academy ATM where the most loyal players, the local kids who grew up dreaming of captaining their hometown club, are now the first ones put on the chopping block. Think about the sale of Mason Mount from Chelsea or Cole Palmer from Manchester City. These weren't just footballing decisions, they were accounting necessities. By selling a homegrown talent for $40 or $50 million, a club can instantly balance their books and cancel out the losses from their high-priced superstars. The academy is no longer just a place to build the future of the team. It has become a financial insurance policy. The better the academy, the more currency the club has to spend on established stars from abroad. It's a cycle that rewards the rich for having the best infrastructure, while forcing them to sell the very soul of the club just to keep the lights on and the lawyers at bay. But while the clubs are busy trading their history for a balanced spreadsheet, a much larger shadow is beginning to loom over European football. Because once you've mastered the accounting, the next step isn't just winning the league, it's owning the league. As we reach the final act of this financial drama, we have to look at the biggest evolution of all, the rise of the multi-club empire. Gone are the days when a billionaire would buy a single team for the love of the badge. Today, the world's most powerful owners aren't thinking in teams. They are thinking in portfolios. They are building multi-club ownership networks, or MCOs. It's a strategy where a flagship club like Manchester City or Chelsea sits at the top of a pyramid, with satellite clubs scattered across the globe, from France and Italy to Brazil and Australia. On the surface, it's marketed as a way to share data and scouting, but under the hood, it's a brilliant way to control the entire football ecosystem. If a star player isn't ready for the Premier League, they are sent to a partner club in Spain to develop. If a club needs to bypass a transfer regulation, they can move a player within their own network at a price that suits their own balance sheet. It's an invisible wall that is slowly closing around the competition. By controlling the talent pathways and the financial levers across multiple leagues, these empires are ensuring that the underdog story becomes a relic of the past. It's no longer about whether Leicester City can win the league once every 50 years. It's about whether any club outside of these massive corporate networks can ever truly compete again. The authorities are scrambling. European football's governing body has introduced strict new deadlines, like the March 1st compliance cutoff, to stop owners from having too much influence over multiple teams in the same competition. They are trying to build firewalls between these clubs to protect the integrity of the sport. But as we've seen, whenever a new rule is written, the accountants are already finding the ink to rewrite it. We are entering an era where the result on the pitch is often decided months in advance in a glass-walled office in New York or Abu Dhabi. The game is faster, the stadiums are grander, and the players are more talented than ever. But as the gap between the super clubs and the rest of the world widens into a canyon, we have to ask ourselves, are we still watching a sport? Or are we just watching a very expensive series of transactions? At the end of the day, football has always been about the moments that money can't buy. The last-minute winner, the roar of the crowd, the impossible dream. But as the financial glitch becomes the new standard, those moments are being guarded by a velvet rope. The super clubs haven't just mastered the game, they've mastered the math. And while the trophies keep piling up, we have to decide if we're okay with a sport where the bank account is just as important as the back four. Is the super club era the natural evolution of the game, or have we lost the soul of football in pursuit of the perfect balance sheet? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Is it time for a total reset, or are you just enjoying the show? This is GoalLine Stories. If you want the truth behind the headlines and the soul behind the stats, make sure to subscribe. Every second counts. We'll see you in the next one.